meerkat is a small member of the mongoose family. They are also referred to as surrogates, slender-tailed meerkats and gray meerkats. Meerkats inhabit the deserts and scrub lands of the southern African region including Botswana, Angola, Namibia and South Africa. They live in hierarchical family groups known as mobs or clans. Their complex cooperative society has made them become regarded as one of the most social mammals in the world. Wild meerkats have been known to live up to 12 years while those in captivity can live up to 15 years. However, there are reports of one captive individual reaching 20.6 years old. It is a popular belief in the Zimbabwe and Zambian regions of Africa that the meerkat is a sun angel. It is said that the sun angels are sent by the gods to protect villages, straying cattle, and lone tribesmen from the moon devil or werewolf. The name sun angel was likely applied to the meerkat due to their glowing appearance in the morning sunlight during their routine sun basks. A meerkat is a small diurnal mongoose. Males weigh an average of 731 grams, 1.61 pounds, and females weigh 720 grams, 1.58 pounds. It has a long slender body and limbs giving it a body length of 25 to 35 centimeters, 10 to 14 inches, and a tail length of 17 to 25 centimeters, 7 to 10 inches. Its tail is not bushy like other mongoose species but is rather long, thin and with tappers to a black-tipped colored tail. Meerkats use their tails for balance when standing upright. Its face tappers come to a point at the nose which is brown. Their snouts point out to a length of 5 to 8 centimeters, 2 to 3 inches, and are whiskered. No two meerkats have the same whiskers pattern. Their eyes have black patches around them which help to deflect the glare of the sun. They have binocular vision, a large peripheral range and depth precipitation. Meerkats have small black crescent-shaped ears that can close when digging to keep sand out. At the end of each of a meerkat's fingers are non-retractable claws used for digging holes for prey and in combat and self-defense. Claws are used at the muscular hind legs to help climb the occasional tree. They have 4 toes on each foot and long, slender limbs. Meerkats have a total of 36 teeth, which is 2 to 4 less than the rest of the mongoose species. Their coat is fawn in color with short parallel stripes across their backs, extending from the base of the tail to the shoulders. Like with their whiskers, every meerkat has its unique stripe pattern. The underside of the body has no markings but the belly has a patch that is only sparsely with hair and shows black skin underneath. Meerkats use this area of their body to absorb the sun's heat when standing on their rear legs, usually early in the mornings after cold desert nights. Meerkats are primarily insectivores preying on a variety of insects. Their diet consists of lizards, scorpions, snakes, spiders, plants, eggs, small vertebrates, millipedes, centipedes, burrowing skinks, small birds, rodents, ants, larvae, grubs, beetles, of all varieties. Meerkats have also been seen eating more unusual prey such as turtles and baby ground squirrels. They are immune to the strong venom of scorpions, but only have some resistant to snake venom. Unlike humans, they have no excess body fat stores, and therefore foraging for food is a daily activity. Meerkats forage in a mob with one individual on sentry duty, keeping watch for predators while the rest of the group hunts for food. Sentry duty is approximately 1 hour long and is usually done by males. The individual on sentry duty gives a peeping sound called the watchman song. It reassures the other meerkats that there is someone on the lookout. Pups do not start to independently forage for their food until about 1 month old and do so by watching an older member of the group who acts as a pup tutor. Meerkats have many predators, which are why they live in mobs, for security purposes. Birds of prey are the biggest threat and cause the meerkats to dive into one of over 1,000 bolt holes in their territory. Terrestrial predators such as jackals, snakes and foxes are often confronted. Snakes in particular are always attacked by meerkat gangs to prevent a far more dangerous encounter below ground. Some of the meerkat's natural predators include martial eagles, their most feared enemy. Goshawks, black-backed jackals, genet cats, only to meerkat pups. Giant eagle owls, Cape cobras, puff adders, yellow mongooses, only to meerkat pups on rare occasions. Mole snakes, Cape foxes, only to meerkat pups. Bateleur eagles, black-breasted snake eagles. Desert lions, very rarely, but have been observed. Meerkats are cooperative breeding animals and have a complex social system. They live in mobs of 5 to 50 individuals consisting of an alpha pair and their offspring, which remain in their natal group until adulthood. When the leader's offspring reach maturity, they take their place as subordinates and assist in raising younger litters. Breeding couples remain together for years, even for life. The dominants monopolize breeding rights viciously and will attack and banish lower-ranking meerkats, their matured offspring, to prevent their status from being challenged. The survival of pups largely depends on the seasons, the abundance of food, and the availability of helpers to help rear their pups. Meerkats live a life that is 80% based on teamwork. By living in a mob, they not only provide each other with an early warning system in case of predators, but also other life structures depend on group living. Meerkats live in mobs which can vary in terms of size depending on food availability and resources within their territory. A single mob can have 5 to 50 members. Normally, males who are in their first or second year of life contribute to sentry duty more often, but females can also frequently contribute to all members except the dominant female will usually contribute to sentry duty on regular occasions. Living in a mob also helps with cooperative breeding by providing the alpha pair with helpers to rear pups. As the pups grow, they will need to learn how to forage, and living in a mob provides the pups with suitable tutors who will not only guard them but also teach them how to hunt for different prey items. The size of a mob affects the size of a territory range. More than one mob is living near each other as a result of overlapping territory ranges. Mobs do often encounter violent clashes with each other, and the size of the mob affects their defense against intruders and chances of driving away rival mobs. Large mobs have a higher success rate in holding on to large territories and driving off intruders than small mobs. Within a mob, there is a social structure governed by the alpha pair, the dominant female and male. The dominant meerkats assert their position by chin swiping, anal marking, hip slamming, and violent attacks on subordinates. This prevents any chances of insubordination among the subordinate meerkats. Once female subordinates reach 3 years old, they are usually already evicted by the dominant female, commonly her mother, sister, aunt, etc. And this removes the chances when the subordinate might challenge the dominant female for her position. Males leave their natal birth mob voluntarily after 1 year old and go on what we call roving expeditions to other mobs in search of any mating opportunities. Sometimes subordinate males are chased out of the group by the dominant male, commonly his father, brother, uncle, etc., who has the sole purpose of holding on to his position. When a mob gets too large, they tend to commonly split. Instances of group splits occur when during foraging trips, when some members move further away in the search for food and split from the main mob and only realize that they have splintered from the main family later on. Normally, the splinter groups can reunite with the main mob at the sleeping burrow or further foraging exertions. Sometimes the two subgroups see each other and begin to war dance after interpreting each other as rival mobs intruding on their territory. But without too much bloodshed, they catch the scent of each other. Since meerkats identify each other more by scent rather than the sight, they will recognize the common scent among them and reunite as one family again. Sometimes the 2 or even 3 splinter mobs do not reunite and become sub-mobs of the main family mob, and after a short while establish themselves as new mobs headed by a new alpha pair and inhabit a new territory range. New mobs are formed commonly as a result of evicted female meerkats combined with roving males from other groups. Some mobs are started by a mixed-gender splinter group from the main mob who establish a new territory range, but most instances of the new mob being founded occur when subordinate female meerkats get evicted from their birth mobs. Unlike males, Female meerkats stay within their birth mobs for life and do not voluntarily leave them unless they are evicted by the dominant female. Dominant females commonly evict subordinates, their daughters, nieces, or sisters, to prevent any challenge for the dominant position. If evicted females do not manage to rejoin their family, then they disperse and, with luck, are joined by unrelated males, either wild or from other mobs, and form a new mob and family. Within a mob there is an alpha pair consisting of two dominant individuals, referred to as the dominant female and the dominant male. They are the breeding pair in the mob. The dominant female is the leader of the mob with the dominant male at her side and breeding partner. The alpha animals are noticeably the largest and most powerfully sized members of the mob. The dominant male is the resident breeding male in the mob who controls access to the dominant female, contributes to sentry duty occasionally, and contributes to the defense of the mob and their territory. The dominant female is the queen of the group, who is the resident breeding female as well as the leader of the group, because according to the KMP a mob cannot be established until there is a dominant female. She is the matriarch of her family and monopolies breeding in the mob by producing pups so as to maintain the size of the mob, and also controls the breeding success of the subordinate females, commonly her daughters. The dominant female and dominant male will assert their position by hip slamming, anal marking, chin swiping, and sometimes launching vicious attacks on subordinates. The dominant female will mostly dominate the subordinate females in case of any insubordination among the subordinate females, and the dominant male will concentrate on the subordinate males in case of any subordination among the subordinate males. Both genders will drive out subordinates to maintain control of their alpha positions and ensure that their pups survive, and that system of pup survival is involved around the capability of control by the dominant female. Dominant females will commonly kill any pups born to subordinates, and in doing so not only ensure that her pups survive, but also by killing the subordinate pups, the subordinate mother will still be able to lactate and act as a wet nurse for the dominant female's pups. Both dominant genders will hold on to their position depending on their capability to control, but normally the dominant female will hold on to her position longer than the dominant male, since meerkats live in a matriarchal society. When the dominant female comes into estrus, the dominant male will stay close to her in what is called mate guarding to prevent her from mating with other males, and therefore ensures that he fathers her pups. Meerkats reach sexual maturity at 1 year old and can have litters from 1 to 7 pups, with 4 being the most common size. Meerkats can produce 4 litters in 1 year, depending on the availability of food. A female may have as many as 70 pups in her lifetime. Meerkats are idriparous and can reproduce any time throughout the year, though pup season occurs during the rainy season when food is most abundant. Pregnancy is identifiable after approximately 4 weeks following copulation. After a gestation period of 70 days, meerkats give birth underground in a burrow, and pups only emerge from the burrow at around 3 weeks old. Newborn pups are commonly killed by other pregnant female meerkats, who kill each other's litter to ensure the survival of their unborn pups. It's normally the dominant female pups that survive. Meerkats rarely give birth above ground due to the presence of many predators. Pups' ears open after 15 days and their eyes open at 10 to 14 days. They are weaned at 43 to 63 days. Once they surface above ground at around 3 weeks old, they are cared for by the babysitters until they are old enough to go foraging with the mob at around 4 to 5 weeks old. While at the burrow, they are suckled by the subordinate females through a process called allolactation, which the subordinate females can produce milk for the dominant female's pups. Pups reach adulthood at 1 year old and can begin to reproduce, though this is restricted as long as they stay in the mob ruled by their parents, who are usually the dominant female and male. A pup is a young meerkat under 6 months old. They are born in a litter ranging from 1 to 7 pups. They remain underground in the burrow until the age of 2 to 3 weeks old. Pups are babysat by helpers at the burrow until they are old enough at around 4 to 5 weeks old to go foraging with the adults. Pups born in the mob are mothered by the dominant female and fathered by the dominant male. though occasionally subordinates also breed, and pups from as many as 5 different mothers are reared together in mixed litters of up to 13 pups. Once they reach around 4 weeks old, they go on foraging trips with the whole group for the very first time and are fed by foraging members by calling out frequently in what is called pup begging calls, which encourage the foraging adults to deliver food to them. As the pups grow up and get older, the adults teach them how to handle live prey like a dangerous scorpion, by teaching the pups that they should first bite off the poisonous sting, and showing them how to find different prey items. Once the pups are older, their begging calls become less effective and the adults ignore their calls, and in doing so teach the young meerkats that they have to learn how to catch prey for themselves to survive. Pups learn everything from their helpers. They learn how to forage by watching the adults, and while still at the burrow they watch the reactions of the babysitters to certain threats. Young meerkats start to play fight from as early as 3 weeks old. Like all young animals, meerkats play fight to strengthen muscles, practice fighting skills needed for later on in life, and build strong bonds with each other. By play fighting, young meerkats learn how to relate to one another and their surroundings. Since meerkats live in mobs, the whole extended family will commonly be the juveniles rough and tumble, and helps to maintain their strong family bond. As young meerkats mature, their play fights will become less and focus their attention on contributing to the welfare of the mob, like sentry duty and tutoring younger members in the mob. Adult meerkats also play fight, and this just shows what cohesive and socially tight-knit meerkats are. Meerkats groom themselves in order to keep their coats free from parasites and also build and maintain strong bonds within the group. Meerkats generally groom one another after returning from a day of foraging or before mating. It is also, sometimes, a form of submission. Lower-ranking meerkats will creep up to dominance and groom their chest or neck in an attempt to prevent isolation from the group or a beating. A positive response often means the dominant animal will groom back. Mobs defend their territory from other neighboring mobs. Intruders can either be rival mobs, newly formed mobs looking for a territory, or small bands of roving males that either temporarily or permanently leave their natal mobs looking for females from other mobs. Territory size is about 1 to 3 kilometers squared, though territory range depends on the size of the mob. Meerkats maintain their territory through latrine sites, visual threat displays such as war dancing to intimidate the rival mob, or if all else fails, violent battles, which are vicious group encounters in which some meerkats are either killed in the fight or others succumb to their wounds. Meerkats reach adulthood at 1 year old. Males voluntarily leave their birth mobs alone or in roving bands, either immigrating into another mob by ousting the resident dominant male or forming new mobs with evicted unrelated females. Female meerkats never permanently immigrate into other mobs but are evicted from their mobs by the dominant female in the later stages of pregnancy. Older pregnant subordinate females are most likely to be the first evicted by the dominant. Dominant females evict older subordinates to safeguard the survival of their pups and maintain their position. Although most cases are the evicted females returning to the mob after the dominant female gives birth, some may permanently disperse and start new mobs with unrelated roving males. On rare occasions, evicted females will band together and oust resident females from smaller mobs also. More aggressive dominant males have been witnessed evicting subordinate males on rare occasions. Therefore, the conclusion is that female meerkats never voluntarily leave a mob, unlike males who will voluntarily leave a mob to search for mating opportunities.